2 patents one Microsoft owns in connection to the blockchain. Everyone thinks that the blockchain has been created for monetary purposes. The monetary purpose is just a reward function. The blockchain is created to house certain frequencies and data and experimental testing on humans. Welcome back to my channel. It's Teacher Raf. I want to talk about some predictions for the new year, and hopefully we're going to have a better year than last year. So let's take a look at the content that I'm going to be presenting. And before we can theorize any predictions that may occur in 2022, and did you get the play on words there? 2022? We need to consider a possible cause of the current supply chain holdup situation. So I want to say thank you to Scott of Snafu, the YouTube channel, for speaking about Executive Order 13848. Get to that in a minute. And also, a person made a comment about some chips being manufactured overseas, and I want to say thank you for that. Kind of led me down the right rabbit hole to connect a bunch of things. And after we talk about the executive order briefly, we'll talk about the Cyber Ninja reports very quickly, and then we're going to talk about the potentiality of a miselection, which could have two possible scenarios. Okay, and then we'll talk about why Intel visited Taiwan and why Intel is investing $7 billion in a Malaysian facility to create semiconductor chips. And then why shares of General Motors downgraded for 2022. Nvidia, which is a semiconductor manufacturer, wants to stop competition through a buyout of ARM, and that's a British company. This would create a monopoly. The European Union, I believe, is already opening an investigation to Nvidia. Nvidia strives to become leader in artificial intelligence market. Okay, Nvidia introduced dedicated graphics cards for crypto mining, and at the same time, Nvidia stopped allowing graphics cards for computing, like gaming and computing, to have the dual usability to also crypto mine. So they stopped that. Nvidia will supply technology companies building the metaverse. So we're seeing a lot of Nvidia. We're seeing that they want to create a monopoly for semiconductor chips. They want to strive to be an AI, artificial intelligence market leader. They want to curtail crypto mining through gaming and create specified graphics cards in order to do that. And then they also want to supply technology companies who build the metaverse. Now, this should create many alarm bells, because what's going on right now is that there's a so-called CHIPS Act is being discussed in Congress. And all of this stuff is a bunch of dominoes. And if you haven't yet, you should watch my video on the patents. There are 2 patents. One of them Microsoft owns. It's connected to the blockchain communications and how the blockchain communications will be communicating to and from human bodies and brains under the umbrella of health. And these people that will volunteer, allegedly, to be these guinea pigs will be paid in crypto payments. This would essentially create an experimental artificial intelligence test on functioning humans. So if you haven't watched that video, I'll put the link in the description. All right, so let's go to this executive order. Okay, so it's called, let's see, imposing certain sanctions in the event of foreign interference in the United States election. This was created, or perhaps it was just amended in September of 2018. But you can see the executive order number here, 13848, September 12, 2018. The title of it, the president who signed off on this, and all of the other pertinent information. You could go to the federalregister.gov website and take a look and see all of the details What I am trying to shine a light on is if you just scroll down a bit, and I believe it is in section 2 and also in section 3 under B, President, as to whether additional sanctions against foreign persons may be appropriate in response to the identified foreign interference and in light of the evaluation in the report mandated by section 1B of this order, including as appropriate and consistent with applicable law, proposed sanctions with respect to largest business entities licensed or domiciled in a country whose government authorized, directed, sponsored, or supported election interference. Okay, so this is what I want you to focus on, that this executive order is saying that if there was any evidence of a foreign government tampering in the US election, that would automatically trigger a halt of any businesses in that country making business with the United States. So let's keep reading, including at least one entity from each of the following sectors: financial services, defense, energy, technology, and transportation, or, if inapplicable to that country's largest business entities, sectors of comparable strategic significance to that foreign government. The recommendation shall include an assessment of the effect of the recommended sanctions on the economic and national security interests of the U.S. and its allies. Okay, so it goes on to talk about that. It says in the sub II here, the second one, export license restrictions under any statute or regulation that requires the prior review and approval of the U.S. government as a condition for the export or re-export of goods or services. Prohibitions on U.S. financial institutions making loans or providing credit to a person. Restrictions on transaction in foreign exchange in which a person has any interest. Prohibitions on transfers of credit or payments between financial institutions by, through, to any financial institution or the benefit of a person. Okay, U.S. persons investing in or purchasing equity or debt of a person. Exclusion of persons, alien corporate officers from the U.S. Okay, so there's a lot of sanctions here, not only for business, but as you can see, for loans, for buying debt, for giving credit, for transferring payments through banks. So if all of those sanctions are in place, right, then it means that people will look for a loophole, or these businesses or countries, and the loopholes are, I would imagine, cryptocurrency. I'm just guessing. Okay, so let's go to the next one here. Okay, so if you go to this website, wendyrogers.org, you can take a look at the Cyber Ninjas paper on the Maricopa County analysis. Okay, and you can read through, and it gives you a lot of details about what they found, and specifically the numbers pertaining to every single detail you can imagine. Now, of course, as you may imagine, not all of the data is public because some of the data was never turned over. So that sort of throws a wrench in the entire analysis process, because it's not a full analysis because we don't have all of the full data. Logs, computer records have been scrubbed or not turned over. But if you go to the azsenaterepublicans.com website, you can see that the Cyber Ninjas have some reports on there, presentations and reports. And you're able to open that, download it, and read it for yourself. And it's a tremendous amount of information, all of the details that they found, where they found it, how they found it, the numbers, if it was a Democrat or Republican, libertarian, or an unlisted person who voted or cast a ballot or had a duplicate ballot. It's all in these reports. So if you're looking for a deep dive, this is it. But in short, let me just give you a heads up. The information in all of these documents points to an election that just really wasn't crystal clear. And I'm not an attorney nor a judge, so I'm not going to be pointing fingers. But if the election wasn't crystal clear, you may have heard that new laws have been potentially triggered to create safeguards against future elections. Okay, so we have a couple of things here that have perhaps led to this scenario, our current scenario. A bunch of supply ships sitting out there in view of the beach, right, of the port, and not being able to come in and unload all of the supplies. Okay, so that's our current situation. Now let's go to this article really quickly. It says Intel CEO reportedly will visit Asia for talks with chip-making competitors, dated December 10th, 2021. So CEO Pat Gelsinger will visit Taiwan and Malaysia. So Taiwan and Malaysia next week for talks, including meetings. So he's already gone there. Okay, with his company's arch rival, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, ticker TSM. Okay, so Intel creates semiconductors, and so does Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. They're competitors, but the Intel CEO is going over there to have a conversation. And as you know, with current events, Taiwan is sort of in a very tense situation. I would call them between a rock and a hard place, right? So I think there are things happening here that we may not realize. Let's keep reading. Okay, so Gelsinger has lobbied the U.S. government to restrict to U.S. manufacturers the funding it is planning to deploy for the industry. The so-called CHIPS Act is now being discussed in Congress. This visit would come as the U.S. government is trying to address the worldwide chip shortages affecting the global economic recovery. So let's just make sure that you saw that. Okay. Next one, Intel CEO to visit Taiwan, home of biggest chip-making rival. Okay, so we just touched on that. Here's an article that will tell you a lot more information, and they touch on Samsung as well, because I bet they are in the semiconductor chip business as well. Okay, so we can go and look at this. Okay, customers include Apple, Qualcomm, Sony Group, Nvidia, and AMD. Okay, next article. Intel gains on plans to invest $7 billion in Malaysia plant, December 12, 2021. Okay, so Intel is not only going over to Taiwan to talk about business relations, they're going to open a plant in Malaysia. Huge plant. Let's see, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing is spending $100 billion over 3 years to expand its capacity, while Samsung is also expected to commit to a big new factory in Texas. So there's this giant explosion of money being funneled towards semiconductors. And the reason they're giving is because we have a supply chain hold-up, pause, or whatever you want to describe it as. But that doesn't really make much sense in my mind. Okay, and let me keep going and show you why I think there's more than meets the eye here. Ford and GM are dropping because next year looks doubtful. This is Barron's, December 14, 2021. The outlook for the auto industry for 2022 is looking iffy, according to Dewa analyst, okay, Mr. Nathan. He downgraded shares of both Ford and General Motors, sending those shares lower. Tesla shares fell as well because CEO Elon Musk continues to sell stock. Okay, and Mr. Nathan cited, let's see, aren't specific to the big Detroit car companies. Okay, so the prediction is for 2022, we will not have chips to go into all of those new cars because these financial analysts are downgrading the auto industry. Here's a very interesting article. October 27, 2021. Now keep all this in mind. We're getting somewhere here. Nvidia's $40 billion takeover of ARM, ARM, faces in-depth investigation from EU, European Union. The probe announced by the Commission on Wednesday is the latest setback for the chip companies, who have already said the deal is unlikely to be completed before the initial deadline of March 2022. So we see that there will be a delay in this whole monopoly game, probably at the end of 2022 or the beginning of 2023. The Commission said it is concerned that the merger could restrict access to ARM's neutral chip designs and that it could lead to higher prices, less choice, and reduced innovation in the semiconductor industry. So on the surface, all of this looks like all of these semiconductor companies, because of the supply chain holdup, because of the election, because of the executive order. You see how I'm showing you the dominoes? They're trying to tell you that this business is for semiconductor chips. That's what they're telling us, okay? But is it really? I don't think so. Keep with me here. So you can come to this article and take a look. And I'll briefly just read a little bit here. Executive arm of EU has launched an in-depth investigation into Nvidia's acquisition of UK chip designer ARM, which is currently owned by SoftBank. Nvidia announced more than a year ago it wants to buy ARM for $40 billion. Okay, so we have this article talking about that. Now let's keep going. Let's see what else we can find here. This article titled, let's see if my computer will go up. I'll show you the title. 3 semiconductor stocks that are restructuring the supply chain, September 16, 2021. Okay, now go down a bit, scroll down, and take a look at this. Okay, so Nvidia stock is up 69% in 2021 on strong demand for its gaming chips. Okay. Nvidia has an extensive chip licensing business. However, it's also looking to acquire ARM, a leader in that space. This is significant because one emerging threat to semiconductor companies is the ability for some of its largest customers to develop in-house capabilities. Again, they are strategically aligning themselves to create a monopoly. But it's not just about semiconductor chips or gaming chips, okay? However, in order to do that, they would likely be using the services of a company like ARM to help jumpstart their process. Nvidia also spends over $1 billion a year on research and development. Now hear this. Nvidia is also striving to become a leader in artificial intelligence AI market. Very important. This is what I'm hinting at. This is where I'm going with all of this. Okay? And early sales of the company graphic processing units, GPUs, suggest its efforts are paying off. Artificial intelligence is a field that can take the company's GPUs beyond the gaming and data center arenas in which it has performed superbly throughout the pandemic. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, Nvidia data center sales grew 55% on demand for artificial intelligence chips. So we're not talking about semiconductor chips any longer. We're not talking about gaming chips any longer. November 17, 2021, artificial intelligence chips. Okay, Nvidia stock has been on a big run over the past year with shares up more than 123% year to date. What do they know that we don't? I think we're starting to open our eyes about this. This is some serious stuff. Nvidia said it expects to report around $7 billion in the current quarter ending in January, higher than analyst expectations of $6.8 billion. Wow. Okay, up 124%. Here we go. Nvidia reported $2.9 billion in data center sales, up 55%. Okay. Now I wanted to show you something really interesting here. Okay, it said it sold $105 million in cryptocurrency specific graphics cards, down from $266 million in the quarter ending in August. So let's back up just a tad. Nvidia's gaming graphics cards now have software that prevents them from being used for cryptocurrency mining. So cryptocurrency mining now is going to be specifically allowed in a specific way, and Nvidia is making that decision. Nvidia introduced dedicated graphics cards for crypto mining. Okay. So not only are they trying to monopolize semiconductor chips, okay, and buying out ARM, the company, but they're also now diverting cryptocurrency mining from the public in a specific way to a specific way that they will be controlling, okay? Nvidia's automotive business remains a small part of its sales, okay, even as rival chip makers invest heavily in the hope that it becomes a multi-billion-dollar market in the next decade. Nvidia said automotive sales were $135 million, up 8%, but down 11% from the previous quarter. Okay, Nvidia said the sequential decline occurred because automakers had other supply constraints, but that self-driving programs using its processors continue to ramp up. Nvidia's professional visualization product line grew 144% annually to $577 million. Keep that in mind, a visualization product. That is going to be something we're going to talk about here in a moment. Business is primarily high-end graphics processors for professionals. Segment continues to grow. All right, here we go. This is very important. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang suggested the company could be one of the main suppliers for technology companies building the metaverse. or a virtual world that some believe will be home to increasing amounts of commerce, recreation, and advertising. Nvidia also introduced new software products called Omniverse Enterprise that can be used to create virtual characters, interpret speech, and create new 3D worlds. Now there's the vision. Nvidia is in the process of purchasing ARM, a British vendor for core mobile semiconductor technology. The European Commission opened an in-depth investigation of the transaction last month. Okay. U.S. Federal Trade Commission had expressed concerns about the transactions and that the company was in talks with the regulator to address those concerns. Although regulators and some ARM licensees have expressed concerns or objected to the transaction, we continue to believe in the merits and benefits of the acquisition into ARM, its licensees, and the industry. Nvidia said it paid $100 million in dividends during the quarter. Okay, so that brings us to this article. 9 U.S. governors lobby Congress to pass CHIPS Act, November 10, 2021. Semiconductor chip shortage continues to negatively affect automotive production. That's what we're being told, right? That's the cause. And now this, I guess, is the effect. But is this the effect because of the cause, or is this the effect because of what the future holds with AI? Keep that in mind. Is projected to cause $100 or $210 billion loss industry-wide by end of 2021. So this is a very large industry. And the government and all these companies are allowing a big loss, but why would they do that unless they have plans for something much, much bigger in scale? With no real end to this crisis in sight, the automotive industry and tech companies have been calling for more US-based chip production, while all major chip makers have agreed to the Biden administration's request to share information concerning supply levels. Back in April, the administration also proposed legislation that would help fund the semiconductor industry as part of Biden's infrastructure package. Now, 9 U.S. governors have come out in support of what is now known as the CHIPS Act, according to Bloomberg. Okay, and these are the governors here. You can come to this website and take a look. They're urging congressional leaders to move the CHIPS Act forward, which would provide $52 billion in aid to chip makers to help resolve the current shortage. Okay, so the reason that they're giving is to help resolve this current shortage and increase production in the U.S. There's no question that our nation's automotive manufacturing industry, more than any other sector, has been hit hardest by the global semiconductor shortage. Okay, well, we all know that, but I don't believe that's the actual reason, okay? The legislation that has become the CHIPS Act was previously included in a broader bill introduced in the Senate back in June, but it later stalled in the House of Representatives and has since taken a backseat to the broader infrastructure plan. A number of companies are reportedly waiting on the bill to be approved by the end of the year so that plans to build chip manufacturing plants in the U.S. can move forward. Now, what will they be producing in those chip manufacturing plants? Do you think it's just semiconductor chips, or do you think it's chips that have to deal with AI and Microsoft? That is what I'm predicting in the future. Now, I urge you to go watch my video, and I will put a link in the bottom of the description on the 2 patents one Microsoft owns in connection to the blockchain. Everyone thinks that the blockchain has been created for monetary purposes, primarily I should say, okay? But I believe that the monetary purpose is just a reward function. The blockchain is created to house certain frequencies and data and experimental testing on humans, bodies, and brains via frequency and communications, which is patented by Microsoft, and I will show you the patent. And in exchange for that, they will be dealing out payments, crypto payments. This is all in the patent. This is not something I came up with. This is not even my theory. This is all documented in the patent, and I will show you if you go and check out that video. Thank you for listening. I hope you like this video. Comment on it. Tell me what you think. Tell me where we're going. Tell me how to get there, and tell me how to prosper from it and protect myself. Share the link. Take care.